Welcome to the Digital Production Buzz at the 2015 NAB Show. Hi, this is Larry Jordan, and this interview was recorded live on the trade show floor. For more information, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Cinedeck manufactures innovative recording systems for use in all video production environments. I write these scripts and I can't even read them correctly. Daine Pearson is a sales engineer for the East Coast for Cinedeck. And Daine, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
How would you define Cinedeck? What does the company do?
Multi-channel, multi-codec, multi-format recorders, and indeed for virtually every kind of production environment you can imagine, in that we support virtually every codec and wrapper you'd ever want to use, whether you're working in Avid or Final Cut or Premiere or any of the other post-production devices that are out there. We do DNX, we do ProRes, we do DV Super HD, we do J2K, we do Cineform, we do uncompressed, we do DPX, and so on and so on and so forth.
Now, we've had the pleasure over the last couple of days of talking with folks like Atomos and folks like Sound Devices, both of which would make video recorders, which would compete against the products that Cinedeck has. How would you position Cinedeck? Why Cinedeck versus some of these other guys?
Well, I would say we're actually much more similar to something in between a Venice and a Clipster. And in a way, heading up towards EVS. We have a 4-channel recorder as well as a 2-channel recorder. We do master and proxy for both SD and HD. And again, with all those codecs, that none of the other systems support all those codecs natively. So we write those files natively. We write to 2 different destinations at the same time. So you can be writing, for example, to the internal SSDs, which are hot swappable, as well as to a SAN or a NAS. So you can be writing directly to your central storage, so your edit has direct access to that content. So from that standpoint, it's actually quite differential. If you go to the 4K realm, which we also do, we can do 4K 30 and or 4K 60p. And when we do the 4K, we give you the 4K master or the UHD master, HD proxy, and H.264 streamable file all at the same time. The other really big plus is the file naming is completely unrestricted. So, well, actually, I should say your folders and file naming, so it can be whatever you want.
So it sounds to me that the real strength is the flexibility. I can decide what codec I want to record in. I can decide what kind of format I want to record in. And you'll support whatever my production needs are.
Absolutely.
So what have you got that's new for us at the show?
Probably the coolest thing is insert editing.
Is what?
Insert editing. We're going back to the tape world. I mean, you've done a little bit of editing, as I've heard.
Oh yes.
So yeah, I mean, in tape, you know, you're used to being able to go in and say, okay, you know, at 16 minutes we need to replace that 4-second shot with some other shot. In the Avid world, the Final Cut world, etc., that's all nice and good in the timeline. But here you've exported out this 75-minute show, and the producer comes down and says, guys, that soundbite is not the right one, or that shot, that can't be in there. That's an embargoed shot, or whatever it is.
People make mistakes?
Well, let's not call them mistakes.
An inaccurate creative decision.
There you go. So, you know, these things happen, and of course they happen all at the wrong time. So you've got, like, you know, 10 minutes there or whatever. You're not going to be able to export out that 75-minute show in 10 minutes. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And which is the reality with a nonlinear edit system. You can do all kinds of great stuff, but you then have to pump the whole thing back out again.
But most of the time I would export this to a server somewhere. How does Cinedeck fit in terms of insert editing? Because I can see it in the production process, but once we get into editing and output, where would Cinedeck
be? Once that file's been exported, let's say you've exported a ProRes file.
Right.
But you need to go back and make a change in it.
Right.
You don't want to have to re-export that whole thing. We can take that closed file, replace that shot in the file.
Got it.
Replace that audio in the file. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's not very exciting. But at the same time, it's awe-inspiring because it's like, oh, so I don't have to, like, re-export this whole thing? No, you can just go in and replace that video, replace that audio, and you're done.
It's trivial if you've got the file inside your nonlinear editor, but once it's out of the editor, making a change to it can be really difficult.
Well, it's time-consuming. And, you know, particularly if obviously, you know, the more rendering that has to go on in order to get it output, the longer it takes. And, you know, if it's a highly, you know, an effects-heavy program, then it just gets worse and worse.
So what do we need to be able to do that?
Actually, there's actually going to be 2 ways. Right now, you would need actually a Cinedeck, and you control it just like a Sony tape deck. In fact, we emulate a 5500. So when you go into like Avid Digital Cut tool, you choose the Sony 5500 for the proper frame rate.
Yeah.
Open your Digital Cut tool, and you say, okay, you know, I want to digital cut my show. You've laid it out into whatever codec you want, because obviously we support like every codec. And then when that miraculous time comes when you got to change something, you load that file up in the Cinedeck and say, okay, this is the file I need to change. Again, your Digital Cut tool, in and out point in your timeline, digital cut, boom, just like on tape.
Except I heard you say at the very beginning, for now, you have to have a Cinedeck. That implies that in the future, something's going to change.
Very, very soon we're going to be coming out with a software-only standalone application that will give you the insert edit capability, and that'll be file to file. So you'll have your complete program file, and then your rendered out replacement piece, drop that in. That standalone package will also include a bunch of rewrapping and transcoding and file repair tools and that sort of stuff. So it'll be a standalone package that people will be able to get separately.
That's so cool. Have you just announced when that's going to happen?
I can't really give a specific. I'm guessing summertime, but
we're talking this year.
Yeah. And it probably, because there's a lot of interest in the insert editing, it'll probably come out in phases. So the insert editing will come out, and then as the other tools get implemented, and you'll get an update that'll include the other tools.
That is so cool. What else you got that's new at the show?
The other good thing, well, we're showing the ZX, which is one of our newer recorders. We actually did show it at the HPA recently, but it's a modular version of our 4-channel MX. Starts at a much lower price point because you can pick and choose both software and hardware, so you build the system you want, so you end up with a lower price point, but all the features you need. But there's also an 8-channel option for that. So one box, 8 channels of encode, and again, a full variety of codecs. So it basically drops the encoding cost down to about $5,000 per channel, a little bit lower.
Now, as a sales guy, what feature is it that gets most people's eyes to light up?
Well, first of all, I'm really happy to say I'm not the sales guy.
You're sales engineer.
Which,
I'm so sorry.
Well, no, it's not a matter of that. It's more a matter of I was a sales guy. And I'm not a sales guy. That's really more what it's all about.
As you're talking with customers, what is it? What feature that Cinedeck has gets their eyes to light up?
It really depends on what they're doing. I mean, the insert editing has been really big on the show floor for the last 2 days, or yesterday and today. But for the folks who are doing multicam productions, just the fact that we're writing, for example, anger management. They record using a couple of Cinedecks. They're recording directly to their Avid ISIS because you can run the client on our machine, so you've got the full SAN capability. They're going straight into edit with the DNX 145, and they're cranking out shows twice as fast as they would have been able to in any other workflow. And the amount of money they saved over 90 episodes was like $2.25 million.
Wow!
When you include all the tapes and the cost for having all the the PAs and the transcodes and the rewraps and all the other nonsense that goes on around managing the tapes, it's a lot of money. So it really depends on what they're doing, and that the fact that you can choose your codec based on what the particular needs are of the day. For a rental facility, it's almost a no-brainer. It's like, oh, well, today we're providing stuff for whatever, pick your company, and they want MOV wrapped ProRes. The next guys, they want, Op1A wrapped AVC Intra, and so on and so forth.
Cool.
So really,
Daine,
flexibility.
What website can we go to learn more?
Cinedeck.com, Cinedeck.
That's all
and we've got a new site.
All one word, Cinedeck, Cinedeck.com. Daine Pearson, sales engineer, East Coast for Cinedeck. Daine, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care.